Well, welcome to another episode of Booth Ross and the Joy of Mathing, edition 10.4 and 10.5, actually. Fun fact, I had actually recorded these already, and apparently I didn't record them with audio, so here is take 2 of this lesson. So, let's go ahead and go through inscribed angles and polygons. So, an inscribed angle, we talked about central angles last time. Inscribed angles are those that have an endpoint on the edge of the circle, and then they intersect the circle at two other points. Okay, so something that's important to know is the intercepted arc is the arc that's formed by those two endpoints that the angle crosses through. And then when we say something subtends, that just means they touch or they intersect at those 2 points, or they end at those two endpoints. So this intercepted arc subtends angle B, as does the chord AC. So AC also subtends angle B. So here's the deal. There is this amazing theorem called the measure of an inscribed angle theorem. Remember, I was about to talk about measure of an arc. We'll talk about that in a second. So the inscribed angle right here is always 1/2 of the measure of the arc. So we're talking about the degrees right here. Okay, that's what I was going to talk about. So remember, measure of arcs are always the degrees. We'll talk about arc lengths later. So the measure of this arc is always twice as big as this angle, or this angle is always half of the measure of the arc. Okay. In another video, I'll show a proof so that you guys can understand why this works, but for now, let's go ahead and use this. So we're going to go ahead and say this dot represents the center. We've got an inscribed angle right here. And remember, according to that theorem, the inscribed angle, or A, has to be 1/2 of the intercepted arc. So right here. So angle, boom. So 1/2 of 88 is 44 degrees. And you're done. So, I don't know what's happening right there. So, I've got some random points here. All right, so for number 2, same idea. We do have to know where this, the inscribed angle is. So the inscribed angle right here that we're really referring to is right here, which notice we don't know the intercepted arc. However, we do know the arc opposite, or not, I shouldn't say opposite, but on near it. So here's the deal on this problem. I don't know if you noticed, but this chord right here is the diameter. If that's the diameter, this whole section should be 180 degrees because it's half of a circle, meaning that this section should be 80 degrees because 180 minus 100 gives us 80. So now we can easily find A, because A is just going to be 1/2 of 80 degrees, which is 40 degrees. Super easy. All right, let's do number 3. Now there are 2 inscribed angles. There's this one right here with the A degrees. And notice that the intercepted arc is 80 degrees. So A should be 1/2 of 80 degrees, which is 40 degrees. And then B, angle B, is right here. Notice how it intercepts, the intercepted arc is exactly the same, meaning B should be exactly the same, and it should be 40 degrees as well. All right, let's move on to number 4. Okay, so number 4, we are trying to find both A and B. So here's our inscribed angle, and then here's our intercepted arc. We don't know our intercepted arc, and we don't know our inscribed angle, so we can't find those. But we do know the other 2 other arcs in the circle that form the rest of the circle. And you need to remember that there are 360 degrees total in a circle. So if I go ahead and just subtract 70 and subtract 63 from 360, we will find our A. So subtract those and I get 227 degrees. Okay, so A is 227 degrees. Then B, since it's the inscribed angle, would just be 1/2 of 227, which will give us, yes, a decimal, and that's okay. So you get 113.5 degrees. All right, so let's move on over to number 5. So we have an inscribed angle right here. There are several inscribed angles. Let's do this one first since A is the first letter in the alphabet. Seemed promising. So the intercepted arc is 60 degrees, meaning A should be 1/2 of 60 degrees, or it should be 30 degrees. So we've got our A. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and clean that picture up. I'm going to go ahead and put 30 degrees right there because it's going to be helpful later. Okay, let's do our B. Angle B looks like, or the inscribed angle B right here is shown as drawn, and this is our intercepted arc. So B should be 1/2 of 102 degrees, which would be 51 degrees. So once again, I'm going to clean that up. Now that I showed you where it was, let's clean that up a bit. I'm going to put the 51 degrees right here because that's going to help us find our next, there's my degree symbol, our next one. So C. Now C, this is a vertical angle, so these are congruent right here. So this should be C. And if you notice, we've got a little triangle right here, and triangles always add up to 180 degrees. So if I just subtract 30 and 51 from 180 degrees, you get 99 degrees, and that is C. Let's do one more in this section. Make sure we've got that down. So this one goes a little backwards. So this time we've actually never had one where we have the inscribed angle, but not the intercepted arc. Well, remember we always take half of the intercepted arc to get the inscribed angle. So to get the intercepted arc to go the opposite way, you just double the inscribed angle. So C is 110 degrees. So I'm going to go a little backwards. I know this seems a little weird, but I'm going to go backwards. So since I started with C, why not go with B next? So B, I want you to notice that angle B is intercepted arc, thank you, is actually 180 degrees since this right here is the diameter. Okay, so we know this is 180, which means that B will have to be 1/2 of 180. Let me switch back to my green. 1/2 of 180, which would be 90 degrees. So you just kind of have to be creative a little bit here to find some of these. And I'm going to clean that picture up a bit. So I know this is 90. I know that's 55. You could go about this next one, finding a couple different ways. You could either find this arc right here and then take half of that. Or since we've got a triangle in here, I could just go ahead and say that A has to equal 180 minus 90 minus 55, which would be 25 degrees. My bad. This should be 35 degrees. I had a moment. 35 degrees.